Something happened in London on June 27, 2026 that nobody quite saw coming. Not because it was shocking, not because it was scandalous, but because when you actually stop and look at the full picture, you start to wonder whether what unfolded that night at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium was just a concert or something far more calculated than any of us were ready to admit. Welcome to Pop Show Room, where we bring you the stories behind the headlines. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that button right now, because this story goes deeper than anything you've seen in the mainstream media. A man from Puerto Rico, a man who records almost entirely in Spanish, who grew up in the small mountain town of Vega Baja, walked onto a stage in North London in front of tens of thousands of people who do not even speak his language and completely own the night. His name is Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio. The world knows him as Bad Bunny, and on this particular evening, London had no choice but to bow. Now, before anyone starts pretending this came out of nowhere, understand that this was not a surprise. This was years of quiet, relentless, borderless domination arriving at its logical destination. A decade ago, the idea of a Spanish-speaking reggaeton artist selling out not one, but two nights at a British football stadium would have been laughed out of every record label boardroom in existence. And yet, here we are. Both nights sold out. Not just sold out, but reportedly the most tickets ever sold for a Latin act in British history. All of this by a man who never once changed his language, never chased a crossover sound, never begged the English-speaking world for permission to be great. That alone should be the story, but it is not even close to the most interesting part of what happened. Because here is where things start to get interesting. There is a section of this show called La Casita. For those who do not know, La Casita translates to the little house. It is a full-scale replica of a traditional working-class Puerto Rican home, sitting right there on the stage, concrete and galvanized steel, looking exactly like the kind of house you would find in the rural hills of Puerto Rico. It has a porch, it has a front door, and on that porch, throughout the night, the most unexpected collection of faces appeared, watching the show like they owned the place, because apparently, for one night, they did. Think about what La Casita really is for a moment. It is not just set design, it is a statement. Bad Bunny brought his home, his culture, his neighborhood, and planted it in the middle of a North London stadium while the whole world watched. That is not accidental. That is intentional symbolism being performed at the highest level. And the celebrities lining up to sit on that porch? That is them saying, publicly and visibly, that they want to be associated with what he has built. So, who exactly showed up to sit in Bad Bunny's little house in London? Maya Jama was there, the British television presenter and one of the most recognizable faces in UK entertainment right now, sitting in La Casita like it was the most natural thing in the world. Her presence there was not just a celebrity cameo, it was a signal. It was one of London's own showing up and saying, yes, this belongs here too. Then there was Novak Djokovic, the tennis player, the man with more Grand Slam titles than most people have fingers. He showed up to a reggaeton concert in London and sat on a Puerto Rican porch and watched a man rap in Spanish for hours, and somehow that is not even the strangest part of his appearance. Because at some point during the night, Novak Djokovic looked at the cameras, looked at the chaos, looked at the spectacle of it all, and said the words that have since been circling the internet at full speed. He said, and we are quoting this directly, "I think PR is something else." Now, stop. Think about what that sentence means. On the surface, it sounds like a compliment. It sounds like Novak Djokovic, a man who has spent his entire career managing his own massive global brand, was simply admiring the scale of what Bad Bunny has pulled off. The marketing, the reach, the ability to get a tennis legend sitting on a replica Puerto Rican porch in London while the whole internet watches. But there is a second reading of that sentence that is impossible to ignore. PR as in Puerto Rico. PR as in public relations. Djokovic, a man who has navigated more media controversy than almost any athlete of his generation, was either giving a masterclass compliment or accidentally revealing exactly how the machinery behind moments like this actually works. Maybe both, maybe neither. Maybe Novak just really loves reggaeton. We will never fully know, and that is exactly the kind of thing that keeps people talking. Joe Jonas was also at La Casita. The Jonas Brothers singer turned up in London and planted himself in the little house. Joe Jonas, whose entire career has been built inside the English-speaking pop world, chose to spend his Friday night at Bad Bunny's show, which again says everything about where the cultural gravity is right now. When artists from the mainstream American pop world start showing up voluntarily to sit at the feet of a reggaeton star, that is not a coincidence. That is a shift. And then came the moment that London itself could not have scripted better even if it tried. Adele was there. Adele, London's own, one of the best-selling music artists in human history, a woman who has sold over 120 million records, who has won every award that exists, who is so deeply woven into the fabric of British music that she might as well be listed as a national landmark. That Adele sat in La Casita at a Bad Bunny concert in her own city and watched the show. Now let us be very honest about what that image communicates. Adele does not need to be anywhere she does not want to be. She is Adele. She could have been anywhere else on the planet that night. She chose this. She chose to sit inside a replica working-class Puerto Rican house on a stage in North London, while a man from the mountains of Puerto Rico performed to her city. That is not a PR stunt. That is one artist recognizing another. And when Adele shows up to your show, London has officially welcomed you home. But the night had one final twist, and this one is for the real fans. Every stop on the Debí Tirar Más Fotos World Tour has featured what is known as the exclusive song, a song that only gets performed at that specific city, never before and never again on the tour. It is Bad Bunny's way of giving each city something that belongs only to them, a gift wrapped in sound. For London, the exclusive song was Cybertruck. Not a love song, not a ballad. Cybertruck, a track named after an electric vehicle that has become one of the most polarizing, meme-worthy, culturally loaded objects of the last several years. And Bad Bunny performed it exclusively, only in London, on the night that Maya Jama and Novak Djokovic and Joe Jonas and Adele were all sitting on his Puerto Rican porch, watching. You cannot make this up. Think about the layers. You have a Puerto Rican man in London performing a song named after an American electric truck that has become a symbol of billionaire tech culture, on a stage shaped like a working-class Caribbean home, in front of one of the most diverse stadium audiences that city has ever seen, and somehow it all makes perfect sense when you see it through his eyes. Because Bad Bunny has never operated inside any single box. He pulls from everywhere, he comments on everything, and when he does, it lands. Now here is the part that gets genuinely suspicious when you sit with it long enough. This tour started in Santo Domingo in November 2025. It has moved through Latin America, through the United States, through Australia, through Spain and Portugal and Germany and the Netherlands. At every single stop, celebrities appeared in La Casita. Pedro Pascal sat in that house. Cardi B sat in that house. The front porch of a replica Puerto Rican home has become one of the most coveted seats in global entertainment, and nobody planned for it to be this way. Or did they? Because the more you look at the pattern, the more deliberate it all appears. The La Casita concept was not invented for this tour. It was born during Bad Bunny's Puerto Rico residency in 2025, when he performed 30 shows exclusively for his home island before taking anything global. He built the house at home first, then he carried it with him everywhere. He made the world come to him, literally. And the world came. This is a man who did not wait for validation. He did not ask for an invitation to the global stage. He built his own stage, put a Puerto Rican house on top of it, and then watched as tennis legends and pop royalty and British television icons stood in line for a seat on his porch. And if you think this is just a concert story, you are missing it. This is a story about identity traveling without losing itself. This is a story about a culture that was once considered too niche for European stadium stages, becoming the headline act at the same venue that hosts Beyoncé and Post Malone. This is about a man who made a whole album about missing home and then brought home with him everywhere he went until home became the most famous address in music. That is what happened in London on June 27, 2026. Not just a concert, a quiet, sold-out, star-studded, Cybertruck soundtracked takeover. And most people watching from the outside had absolutely no idea what they were really seeing. Now look, if you have stayed this far, you clearly love this kind of deep dive into what is actually happening beneath the surface of pop culture moments. And I can promise you, there is so much more where this came from. If you are not already subscribed to this channel, right now is the moment. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, because the stories we are telling here go beyond the headlines, and you do not want to be catching up later. Subscribe now. It takes 2 seconds, and it means the world. There is one final thing worth saying about all of this. Novak Djokovic said, "I think PR is something else." And honestly, he was right, whichever meaning he intended. Puerto Rico is something else, and Bad Bunny has spent his entire career proving it to the world, one stadium at a time, in a language that the world is still catching up to understand. He did not translate himself for London. London translated itself for him. And that, more than anything, is the story of that night. If you enjoyed this video, do yourself a favor and subscribe to this channel right now. We cover the moments that matter, the stories beneath the stories, and the culture moving the world when nobody is paying attention. Subscribe now. It takes 2 seconds, and it means the world.